Harena Resources owns 75% of the Ampasindava ionic clay rare earth project in Madagascar, which is rich in critical metals required for military, AI and clean energy applications. I'm delighted to be joined by the Managing Director, Joe Belladonna. So, Joe, I'm talking to you in the week that's seen huge moves on the stock markets due to Trump's tariffs and the particularly punitive ones on China. Now, your project is one of the largest ionic clay rare earth deposits outside China. So will tariffs work in your favour?
Yeah, thanks for having me along, Sarah. And yeah, to answer that question quite directly, I do think that the fallout from the tariffs and the response from China with regard to restricting their exports of dysprosium and terbium should be positive for the sector, especially companies like Harena Resources, who've got a large ionic clay rare earth resource outside of China. So, I think when we look at, the fundamentals of supply and demand, when we're restricting, supply of materials into the market, that's generally a good economic sign that prices should increase. But I think, more importantly is that, the manufacturing of permanent magnets at the moment, the demand draw for that, for those elements going into those permanent magnets is really interesting. Look, all of the modern machines, electronic devices, robots and the like are full of these permanent magnets, and those permanent magnets are manufactured via those rare earth elements. But just to continue on, I think importantly, the tariffs and the Chinese response, it just really invigorates the rest of the world to look at where they're going to, source their rare earth elements from, whether that's the US, Europe, Korea, and the likes, because everybody's got their defensive industries and appliances, their new energy requirements. One of the, new things that we're seeing at the moment, as being a new demand driver coming through is the AI-enabled humanoid robot type of appliances that we think is going to be a really strong demand driver as we head forward as well. And each of those requires many kilograms of rare earth elements. And with China dominating 90% of that supply, it should definitely see a tailwind for rare earth pricing plus demand plus companies like Harena.
So a contrarian point of view, if tariffs are eased, is your offering still as desirable?
Yeah, good question. I think the reality of the elements and that demand that I mentioned, whether that's defence, new energy, wind turbines and the like, the permanent magnet demand and the elements that are required for those were already on a strong trajectory as we headed forward from where we are today. So while I think it's put a spotlight on some of the on some of the companies and some of the particular elements, especially dysprosium and terbium now being included in those export restrictions, I don't think that the demand story and the supply story actually changes overly. It's just really moving the focus at the moment.
So how are you progressing the project? Is there now a greater sense of urgency?
Look, we've always been very focused on moving the project forward as quickly as we can. The company was established off of the back of this project. The people that are involved are mining people. Myself, 25 years of in the mining industry in Australia. I'm come from a mine operating background. So we've always been pretty focused on bringing the project forward as quickly as we can. So our critical path post-listing on the LSE a few weeks ago was really about having our exploration license transitioned fully to a mining license, so we can move that project forward as quickly as we can.
And remind us, what critical metals does the project contain?
Look, it is a large-scale project. There's, our predominant metals that we're targeting is praseodymium, neodymium, dysprosium and terbium, and they're the key elements that go into the manufacturing of permanent magnets. So a neodymium magnet is around 30% neodymium and praseodymium, and then there's a sprinkling of dysprosium and terbium, which are the high value or the highest value sort of rare earths that we see in our basket. So something like terbium trades at $830 a kilo today. So that's pretty. It's a high value element going into that permanent magnet manufacturing process. So they're the elements that we're targeting. But we do have the full suite. There's 17 elements that make up rare earths. We do have the full suite. A lot of them report back into our overall basket of materials, and we would expect to get paid for the majority of them.
So you have that full suite, but would you say that the project is de-risked from a technical and a regulatory point of view?
Yeah, that's a great question. From a technical point of view, the project's had around US $20 million spent on it since it's been discovered through to its current situation. At the moment, we've got 600 or just shy of 700 million tons of material in JORC classified resource. So it's high confidence resource work that's been done on the project. Importantly, that US $20 million has also had a large amount of metallurgy work completed on the project. So we do know that it's an ionic clay resource. Ionic clays are very important, meaning that the elements are attached to the clays with an ionic charge or with a magnetic bond. So you're only breaking that magnetic bond to release the elements into solution. So we know that work's been done, and we know that the project is really going to be amenable to a low technical risk salt water and ammonium sulfate leaching process, which is simple. It's low tech. It has been used before, so we do know that work has been done. And importantly, we're recovering those magnet metals in strong recovery numbers. Something like the neodymium, praseodymiums are recovering in the 85s to nearly 90%. Dysprosium and terbium are in the 70s to mid 70s recovery rates. So again, they're really strong recoveries attached to these projects. So yeah, I think from a technical point of view, we're very advanced to the point that really our study work that we're working on at the moment is more focused on a mining model and costs and logistics versus heavy geology and heavy metallurgy work. That work's been done over a 20-year period prior to now. We should be able to move charge towards production quite quickly.
I'm interested in the project ownership ratio. You currently have 75% of the project. Would you like more, or is the exit strategy one of proving up the resource and selling on, or would the board, as you said, like to get it into production themselves?
Yeah, look, obviously there's no fixed answer to that question. Look, if there's the right opportunity or the right partner or the right transaction is presented, we would assess all of those on their merits. But I do believe that there is an avenue for us to increase our ownership in the project. I can't say a lot about that. It is a little bit sort of commercially sensitive at the moment. But I do think there's the option of us being able to increase our ownership percentage above that 75%, and then also continue to advance the project. Look, in my experience, the best way to get full value for your project is to do your best by it and develop it as quickly as you can.
On so many levels, the world order as we know it has been upended with Putin's attack on Ukraine and Trump's isolationist policies. So are you anticipating that most countries are now going to beef up their defence expenditure, which in turn will make your project one that investors will want in their portfolio?
Yeah, look, I'm certainly no expert on geopolitics or defence spending. And look, I would personally like to see all of these conflicts quite quickly and peacefully resolved, no doubt. But the reality of the current situation around many of the regions probably leads me to believe more that defence spending is probably going to be increasing versus reducing. The reality of modern warfare, the appliances that are deployed, like guided missile systems, they require rare earths. A nuclear submarine's got 4,000 kilograms of rare earths in each unit. So I do think that unfortunately, the position that we're in at the moment is going to see probably an increased focus on defence and defence spending. Things like a guided missile, once used, you're not recovering the elements that would need to be replaced with primary elements again. So again, strong demand driver for rare earths as we head forward.
I don't want to sound like a warmonger, Joe, but taking all that into consideration, who are the likely customers? What does the supply chain look like from extraction to finished product?
Yeah, look, the overall, purchaser at the end of the day will be driven by the market. I guess for Harena Resources, the main thing that we're seeing now is that governments are funding downstream developments of rare earth refineries and processing facilities. Last year, Harena executed a non-binding term sheet for offtake with United Rare Earths, which is a US-based company that's planning on developing what they call their rare earth center of excellence in Tennessee in the United States. They've got plans to build recycling plus separation plus refining facilities there. So they're looking at doing the full value chain on their plot of land that they've started developing now. So that's the sort of I guess customer that we're seeing moving forward. They're not necessarily a military customer or a wind turbine customer or an electric vehicle motor customer because rare earths they're across the entire suite of products. But they're certainly geopolitically motivated to deliver rare earths into their jurisdiction. So we've seen funding opportunities come through from the Department of Finance, the Development Finance Corporation in the US, the EXIMs, the development banks from the different nations are all putting money where their mouths are at the moment to make sure that they've got a line of sight on where they're going to see their supply of material come from. And really for Harena being at the stage that we are, it's really encouraging that we've been able to attract a US-based potential offtake party to move forward with.
So finally, Joe, that's the long-term vision. So what's the goal for this quarter or at least till the end of 2025?
Yeah, look, obviously we recently listed on the LSE via the reverse takeover of Harena Resources, and the ticker for that one is HREE for anybody that's playing along at home. And look, there's a number of key priorities post the readmission. Obviously, we want to advance the Ampassandava project as quickly as we can, move that through pre-feasibility study so that we can move that mining license along. We obviously want to strengthen our collaboration with the Madagascan government as we move forward. Obviously, we've got a real focus on not just mining our project, but making sure that the Malagasy people come along with us for that journey and benefit from those outcomes as well. We're obviously trying to build strategic partnerships with our offtake customers and our other people that can potentially be stakeholders in our journey here and get ourselves integrated into that supply chain. And obviously we want to engage with as many government and global organisations as we can that are supporting the sustainable production of rare earth elements and supporting them via the investments in the projects. So we've got a bit to do this year.
And I know you'll do it. Joe Belladonna, Managing Director of Harena Resources. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.